Hello, today I'm going to do a review of the Hastur MTL RTA Mini by Cthulhu Mods. This cost me around about £25. It is a 22mm RTA with a 2mm capacity. The air holes, it has a 0.1, a 1.2 and a 1.4mm. It has a threadless top cap. Twist it and it pops out, and then just put it back on, find the tipping point and twist it back on. The build deck is nothing that unusual or special about it. So you've got your coil placement there, screw either side, 2 air holes, and then the little wicking holes for your wicks to go through, and they then go through to the bottom of the deck. So what are the pros? The pros are it's quite easy to build on. Getting your coils in there is not too much trouble at all. It's not too bad to wick. You need to do a little bit of trimming of your cotton, but it's not the hardest thing in the world to wick. I do like the looks on this. I think it looks a very stylish RTA. The other pro to it is that it's very easy to refill because of that threadless top cap. From a cons point of view, the biggest problem I had with this is because it's such a tiny small chamber, it gets condensation in the chamber, which obviously comes through the mouthpiece. So occasionally it feels like your tanker's flooded and you're getting juice in your mouth when it's just the condensation from the vapor that you're actually getting in your mouth, which I found quite annoying. So I'm putting that down as a con. It could be down to a multitude of things. It could have been down to the way I was wicking, the power, the coil I was using, etc. So it could be just an issue that I've had, but for me that's a con. Okay, so let's do some comparisons against some other tanks. I'll start off with a Cimarron V2. The Cimarron V2 I'm using is the 4mm version, so that's why it looks considerably taller than the Hastur. So looks wise, for me personally, I prefer the looks of the Hastur. It's a much more stylish looking RTA. For airflow, comparing the airflow, there are more airflow options on the Cimarron than there are on the Hastur, but the draw feels a little bit tighter in the Hastur, but the airflow options are very similar. There are as tighter options on the Cimarron as there are on the Hastur, but it just, because that smaller chamber, it just feels that little bit tighter on the draw. So coiling and wicking, they're very similar to build on. They've got very similar build decks. I think from when you're wicking, when you're putting your cotton in it, I find the Cimarron just a little bit easier to wick than the Hastur. Refilling, again, they've got a very similar refilling method because they both have the press fit caps. So from that perspective, they're almost identical. Flavour, again, because of the smaller chamber, the Hastur for me seems to have better flavour. Let's do a comparison against the Saver. So looks wise, again, I think the Hastur looks slightly more aesthetically pleasing than the Saver, but they're just quite different styles, so it's more what you're looking for than that. So I mean, they're much more comparable than the Cimarron was, but I think just looks wise, the Hastur has it on that one. Airflow, obviously because of the Saver being mouth to lung and restricted direct lung, you get a much tighter airflow on the Hastur. Coiling and wicking, I'd say building wise, because of the different deck style they both have, the Saver is easier to build on, and I'd say they're similar to wick. I said you do have to like trim down your wicks a little bit when you're wicking both of them, so I think on that respect they're quite similar. From a wicking perspective, I did get the wicking right quicker on the Hastur than the Saver, but that could just be down to the fact that I had the Saver before, so I learned how to wick properly, whereas I didn't know how to do it before. So that could be user error, has to be taken into account for that one. Refilling, even the fact that obviously the Hastur has the press fit cap, and the Saver has a screw-on cap. They're very similar for refilling and leakage, etc. Gurgling, they're very similar on that front, so there's nothing to choose between them on there. And flavour-wise, for me, they're both Cimarron flavour. And last, we have the Berserker. Obviously, I would compare it to the Berserker Mini. Unfortunately, I have given that away. So I'm going to compare it to the normal Berserker. So if you're comparing it to the Berserker, obviously, looks and styling, I think, they're quite similar. Personally, I prefer the Hastur, but the Berserker isn't by any means the ugly, or certainly the mini version isn't the ugliest tank in the world, so that's down to personal preference. Airflow wise, there are more options for airflow on the Berserker. However, the tightness and draw on the similar air holes is comparable, and coiling and wicking, they're quite similar to coil, but the Hastur is much easier to wick. If you've seen my video on the Berserker, you'll know why. And again, refilling, personally, I think the Berserker is an absolute pain in the backside to refill, so the Hastur will easily beat it for refilling. Flavour wise, I'd say they're very comparable, very similar on the flavour front, very certainly to the Mini. The Hastur and I think the easiest comparison between of the tanks here is that the Hastur is very, very similar to the Berserker Mini from a flavour and airflow draw perspective. So, in conclusion, would I recommend someone to buy this? It's a good RTA. It's easy enough to build, it's easy enough to wick, it doesn't flood, it doesn't leak. It's got a nice tight airflow for someone who likes a proper, decent mouth to lung. But the problem I had with it is the condensation just took away from the experience for me. So, personally, would I recommend someone get out? I would say if you've got the Berserker and Berserker Mini and you're okay with that, but you wish the wicking was a little bit easier to do, get one of these. If you were looking at buying your first mouth to lung RTA tank, would I say to get this one? Don't know. I mean, what one would I recommend someone get as their first thing? I mean, it probably would be the Cimarron, because it's the easiest to wick and the flavour isn't too bad. It's not the best flavour, but it's not too bad. So yeah, so that's it. It's a weird one. If you like the look of it and you've tried the Berserker Mini and you can get on with that aside from but you find the re-wicking and refilling of the Berserker a real pain in the ass, give this one a try, because in my opinion, I think it looks nicer and it works better than that. Is it my favourite mouth to lung RTA? No. So yeah, so take what you want from that, but that's it in summary. So thanks a lot for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any comments, please leave it in the comment section below, and I will speak to you again soon.